In the middle of the sky, an unconscious man is falling at a very fast speed. His name is Royce and he wakes up just in time to open his parachute right before he falls through the trees of a thick jungle and hits the ground, which knocks him out. Seconds later, he wakes up again to discover he doesn't know where he is or how he got there, but at least he still has his mercenary weapons and clothes. At that moment another man falls next to him. Cuchillo, who is part of a Mexican cartel, aims his weapons at Royce, but before they can react a third man falls between them. His parachute didn't open, so he died on impact. Suddenly someone opens fire on them, and Royce moves quickly to dodge the bullets and appear behind the shooter. Nikolai is a Russian commando, and the last thing he remembers is being at war. Royce and Cuchillo had the same experience. They were going through their days when a light shined and knocked them out, then they appeared in the sky. When they turn around, they find Isabel, a sniper from the Israel Defense Forces, aiming her weapon at them. She explains she's been to many jungles but she can't recognize this one, and that she saw more people falling. They agree to leave together to look for the others, unaware that nearby, Yakuza member Hanzo is watching them. He tries to follow them, but when his shoes touch the mud, Hanzo decides to take them off. The group goes deeper into the jungle and finds two men in the middle of a fight, death row inmate Stans and Mombasa, a rebel from a South African organization. The men end their fight when they see the others and agree to stick together because there's strength in numbers. Then Stans mentions some guy on a tree. This is Dr. Edwin, whose parachute got stuck in a branch. Royce rescues him by shooting the branch and making him fall into a lake. Then Edwin shares the same story as everyone else with no idea of where they are or what's going on. As the group keeps moving, Isabel has to ignore Stan's creepy and dirty comments. Eventually they find Hanzo in the mud, but he isn't stuck, he's frozen because he's found a strange totem with lots of bones underneath. Mombasa comments that some hunter must be taking trophies and that in his culture, the warrior with the best trophies gets the most respect. Nikolai thinks this is some kind of test but Isabel disagrees because not all of them are military. Cuchillo thinks it's a ransom, Stan says it's an experiment, and then suddenly they're wondering if they're dead and this is hell. Royce shuts them all up and says the reason doesn't matter, what they need is to find a way to escape. The group follows Royce and as they cross the jungle, Nikolai wants to touch a pretty flower. However Edwin stops him, explaining it's poisonous and would cause total paralysis. Nikolai is grateful and promises to protect Edwin in the future. After advancing some more, Isabel asks Royce to slow down and shows him something. She makes an improvised compass and puts it on the water, but it won't stop going in circles. In return, Royce points out that the sun hasn't moved since they arrived, so moving around will be hard. He also tells Isabel that since they're all dangerous fighters plus a doctor, his theory is that they were carefully chosen. Isabel guesses Royce used to be a soldier before he became a mercenary, but he refuses to say more. After more walking, the group comes across a cage and carefully removes the sheet that covers it, only to find it empty. It seems the cage was dropped just like them, and the blood stains indicate some kind of creature was in it. When they look up, they find a bunch of fallen cages stuck on the trees, meaning they'll be having lots of company. Then the group keeps going and suddenly Mombasa trips on a branch, accidentally triggering a trap. Soon a bunch of things are trying to kill them, a huge swinging tree trunk, a bunch of falling wood stakes, and even a huge bear trap, but they dodge them all. Isabel runs and falls into a hole, managing to survive by holding onto the edge. Royce runs to her and saves her right before she falls, then Isabel uses the scope on her weapon to find the person behind the traps, only to discover he's already dead. Judging the decomposition, Edwin mentions the guy has been dead for 2 weeks, and Nikolai checks the pockets to discover he used to be a USA Special Forces soldier. Royce realizes the traps weren't for them but for whatever killed the guy, which he believes to be much bigger than them because of the trap's position. As they start moving again, Mombasa thinks there's something among the trees but decides to ignore it. However, he isn't wrong. Someone is watching them with infrared technology and repeating anything they say. Moments later, they manage to reach the edge of the jungle and look up at the sky, only to receive a huge shock. A bunch of weird planets and stars indicate that they're not on Earth. Royce decides they must find who put them here to ask them to send them back. The group re-enters the jungle and suddenly, a drone quickly flies near the heads, freaking Stans out. He complains